a hot and a sensitive matter, that is inclusivity in the appointments and opportunities that comes along in the public sector and also private sector in Kenya. We are privileged to have Dr. Abraham Korir Sing'oei, who is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Dr. Abraham Korir Sing'oei is the legal advisor to the Executive Office of the Deputy President. He has spent a good part of his life in defending the minorities' rights across the Republic of Kenya, and besides, he has won numerous cases in court on matters involving land, human rights, and electoral-related cases. Welcome to Power Brief. My name is Cornelius Omuse as we look into this matter. Karibu Bwana Wakili.
Thank you, Cornelius.
We appreciate for your time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to the rest of the world on these matters, inclusivity. And a number of people knows you across the Republic of Kenya. They know the good works you've been doing in matters research to do with the minorities. And at some point, they do not see you. Others were even asking, where is Dr. Abraham Korir Sing'oei nowadays?
Well, thank you very much, Cornelius, for having me. It's really important to say that the subject of inclusion is one that is critical for the governance or for the good governance of our country. One of the issues, if you recall, that led to the post-election violence in 2007 was this perception around inclusion and exclusion. Kenya is a multi-ethnic, multi-religious country. It therefore is important that everybody, whether you are from a big community or from the smallest of us all, it is important that every one of us feels that we are included in our polity. And so if you recall, in 2007, in the context of Agenda 4 established by Kofi Annan and the mediation process, inclusion was one of the critical issues. So inclusion issues have continued to stay with us up to the present. And in that context, one of the proposals of the Kofi Annan process was, let's have an institution that can monitor the extent to which the country has achieved cohesiveness and inclusion, and that is why the National Cohesion and Integration Commission was established. That commission is in place, has been in place now for over 10 years, and part, I suppose, of our conversation will be, what has that institution done, and what has the new constitution been able to deliver for communities and groups that felt or feel either discriminated, excluded, insufficiently included in the governance processes, etc., etc.
Thank you, Bwana Wakili. And looking at your legacy and also part of your history, you have a rich legacy in defending the minorities' rights. And there are people who look at your life and what you've been doing and they go behind asking themselves, Dr. Korir does not come from a minority community in Kenya. And what is this that is motivating him to fight for the minorities while he could not be a victim?
That's actually really very interesting. It's true I don't come from a minority community necessarily, because the Kalenjin community is not necessarily a minority. But don't forget that the Kalenjin community is also an amalgamation of several smaller groups within it. But really what motivates me is that in 2001, I met a friend of mine whose name is Adam Hussein Adam. Adam and I were in high school together. And in 2001, when I was just finishing my university education, I met Adam, who had been my senior in high school. And Adam was from a minority community called the Nubian community in Kibera. And Adam told me his story. And his story was that by virtue of being a Nubian, he did not even have a national identity card. Adam's story is what led me to begin to think around working and supporting minorities. It is through Adam that I spent the next 7 years of my life working with the Nubian community and discovering that it wasn't just the Nubians who are somehow excluded from a nationality standpoint or from a citizenship standpoint or from a land rights standpoint, but there were a number of other communities. The Androys in Lake Bogoria who had been removed from their land in order to create a national park or a national reserve. You had the Il Chamus community whose livelihood was not recognized, again from Lake Baringo. You had the Ogiek whose relationship with the forest was not recognized in policy and had been the subject matter of constant evictions. You had a lot of communities in the country. And so what really started for me as an attempt to assist a friend led me on the path of discovering that there were so many Kenyans who, for one reason or another, were not participating in this country called Kenya, either socially, economically, or politically. And that is why I spent a great deal of my life, 7 years, 8 years, working and championing and defending the rights of minority communities.
Thank you, Bwana Wakili. To take you back, you've spoken about the Kofi Annan report, the Kriegler report, and what was actually supposed to be done after the post-election violence of the year 2008. The question now comes because right now we are having the call for the BBI, the head of state himself, Raila Odinga, and all the proponents of the BBI are talking of kila mmoja atashirikishwa if tukipitisha hii BBI. Is it an indicator that up to right now, we've not implemented what Kriegler and Kofi Annan suggest?
You know, I think, Cornelius, it's fair to say the following. Number one, that the Constitution we adopted in 2010, if you read it from its very foundation, in Article 10 that talks about national values, one of the national values is the whole issue of inclusion, all right, and participation. All the way through Chapter 5 in relation to the Bill of Rights that speaks to ensuring that socio-economic rights, including that of the most marginalized, are provided for. When you read the Katiba in terms of inclusion, you would find that there are so many provisions touching on inclusion and trying to build a country where our diversity would be respected, where our belonging would be honored, where our cultures would be celebrated, and where, as a Kenyan, no matter where you come from, you would be able to access opportunities in terms of jobs and employment. You would be able to access opportunities and stand for office, etc., etc., including in relation to political parties. One of the obligations of political parties is that a political party cannot be an ethnic party. It must be a party that has membership across the breadth and length of our country. The key challenge has been around implementation. I think what BBI is saying is that we have failed to effectively implement the compacts, the principles, the values, the provisions of the 2010 Constitution. And therefore, we need to go back and ask ourselves whether, number one, did we create the right institutions? All right? Are the institutions that we imagined will drive the inclusion agenda, you know, are they sufficiently robust? You know, what have they actually achieved? Number two, are the laws and the mandates given to these institutions adequate? Is there something we need to do there? You know? And number three, are the people whom we gave to run these institutions, were they the right people? You know, were they the most qualified people? Did they actually take to heart the mandate of these institutions? And number four, what kind of resources have we put behind these institutions to ensure that they're able to discharge their mandates effectively.
Wakili, thank you. Now, we compare ourselves with our neighbors just down here, the people of Tanzania. These are people wanaitana ndugu, dada. There we don't have minorities, we don't have majorities. Anybody can get an opportunity. It's good to know, where did the rain start beating us as a country? We are one people, yes, from one country, but a country is within the country.
I think it's a very difficult question that you present to me, and I don't know really whether I have an answer. But based on my understanding, I think the rains began to beat us from the time we became a colony. Because colonialists basically appropriated ethnicity and used it to divide our communities with a view to exercising authority over us, as it were.
Scattering and rule.
You know, it was all about exercising control through division. Okay? It was about dividing and rule. That ethic, that methodology of governance was perfected at colonialism. Or at the minimum, it was initiated and nurtured at colonialism. And thereafter, the immediate post-independent states did not do enough in terms of really building a country where all of us felt and felt that we belonged to. All right? And so over time, political actors have been incentivized to use ethnicity as a mobilizing tool in order to gain power.
And it has worked.
It has worked for them, but has it worked for the country? Has it worked in terms of creating stability? Has it worked in terms of creating inclusive institutions? My argument really is that it has failed and continues to fail, and therefore the country needs to change course. Unlike Kenya, Tanzania approached governance completely differently. It first sought to build a common identity. It invested in the idea of undugu, ujamaa. It discouraged ubinafsi, individualistic approaches. And it invested its political and social capital towards the building of one united, indivisible state called Tanzania, ruled and driven by Tanzanians. People who are extremely proud of that one identity, proud of their language, through Swahili, which is spoken across the length and breadth of Tanzania, not as a medium of trade only, but really as a medium of inclusion and participation. Tanzania has been able to do it. Kenya can do it as well. All we need to do is to understand that in the past, ethnicity has been used to divide. It's been used to particularize. It's been used to call the rest of non-members others. It's been used to create enmity and division. Ethnicity can also be used to bring people together. Our diversity can be the source for intercultural celebration and cohesion. It is actually an opportunity for us to build a truly diverse and multi-ethnic state that is very, very powerful and that is extremely.
Thank you, Daktari. Now, you mentioned very sensitive parts, that is the NCIC, the National Gender and Equality Commission. We also have commissions like the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commissions. Looking at the budget, the government has been allocating resources for them, and what have you. As a legal scholar, has their problem been originating from politics or legal hitches to an extent that they have not been able to perform to what they were expected to?
I think, again, it's not fair to say they have not performed. If you understand, Chapter 10 commissions, Chapter 15 commissions are several commissions. that range from the Teachers Service Commission, the Judicial Service Commission. All these commissions operate under the rubric of Chapter 15. Chapter 15 commissions are meant to be independent, all right? And they are meant to essentially advance the idea of the sovereignty of the state. They are also supposed to protect the national interest. And they're supposed, in their composition, to reflect the face of Kenya. Now, the challenge really has been that if you look at the successful commissions that I have in mind here, a commission such as the Commission on Revenue Allocation, which in my view, I think is a commission that's doing extremely well in terms of providing policy advice on issues around, shareable revenue, addressing economic inequalities, etc., etc. There are commissions that are doing extremely well. So, and the Commission on Revenue Allocation is one of them. I believe very strongly that a commission such as the Commission on Administrative Justice, that is supposed to address issues of maladministration, that is supposed to receive complaints from citizens in terms of which department of government isn't doing its job as it ought, which officer in government is failing to discharge their responsibility. A commission that is supposed to advance the freedom of information and access to information to citizens. So there are commissions that are actually doing pretty well. In contrast, there are commissions that are also not doing as well. And here I have in mind a commission such as NCIC, which, whereas it has a very robust mandate, I think it has failed to conceptualize. So it's really a question of conceptualizing your mandate, understanding it in terms of the totality of the context in which you exist, understanding the political as well as the socio-economic challenges that you may be confronted with in the context of implementation. There are a number of commissions, including the Gender and Equality Commission, that continues to struggle with its mandate in terms of conceptualizing that. So I feel like it really starts from the beginning there, where we need to ask ourselves, are the people that we have given the responsibility to run these commissions, are they the right people? Is the process used to identify these commissioners one that is enabling of us to get the best, the best representatives, the best 9, the best 8, the best 7, whichever commission it is? Is the process of appointing through vetting in Parliament, has that process only served, to rubber stamp rather than to actually vet, test, inquire into, and make an objective determination that this is a person who will drive this mandate, or this is a group of people that can drive this mandate in the most effective of manner. So we need to look back at the business processes used in the appointment of these commissioners. But also we need to ask ourselves the extent to which there has been political interference. All right? To what extent has there been political interference in the choice of these commissioners? And to what extent has the use of budgets, the control of budgets, been used to kind of control and to render these commissions non-independent or less independent or ineffective in the discharge of their mandate? So there are questions that we need to ask ourselves, but those questions need to be specific and particular to each of these commissions, because we cannot then take a very general view and say that all the commissions have failed to discharge their mandate.
Thank you so much, Wakili. We go for a short break. As we come back, we'll be looking into the ways forward. Is it the BBI? Is it the change of heart? Or what is it really that Kenyans can do in order to see that we have inclusivity and a country that each and every individual can be proud to be in? You can engage us on our social media platforms. Our Facebook is KAK TV Kenya. Our Twitter handle is KAK TV_Kenya. And you can also stream live on our YouTube channel. Keep it on KAK TV.
Have you ever dreamed or imagined of owning a prime property in the fastest growing areas in Kenya today? The PCEA Cooperative Society Limited is making your dreams come true. We have plots along Kangunda Road at Kantafu, Juja Farm and Thika Municipality. All the plots have ready title deeds and ready for development. For booking and reservation, call us on 0708-145-222 or shoot us an email at pceahousingltd@gmail.com. PCEA Housing Cooperative Society Limited is turning your dreams into a reality.
Are you looking for a reputable school to guide you in pursuing your dreams in nursing? Look no further. PCA Kikuyu Hospital School of Nursing is accredited by the Nursing Council of Kenya to offer Diploma in Community Health Nursing. With a mean grade of C Plain and above, we will walk with you through your journey to pursue your dreams. We are located in a serene environment conducive for learning. At the heart of Kikuyu Sub-County neighboring Alliance Boys and Girls School, we also pride ourselves for having a fully equipped modern library with e-learning facilities, qualified and committed lecturers, comfortable and learning-friendly lecture rooms. At the state-of-the-art skills lab, spacious student hostel with excellent accommodation facilities and chaplaincy staff at the hand for spiritual and pastoral care. April 2020 intake is currently ongoing. To register, apply to the principal, PCA Kikuyu Hospital School of Nursing, through email nursing@pcakikuyuhospital.org. For more information, call the numbers on your screen.
Hebu tafakari haya. Uko nyumbani na familia yako, hauna chakula na hata mahitaji mengine, na zaidi huwezi enda kazini. Utafanya nini?
Mkurupuko wa virusi vya korona umesababisha uhaba wa mahitaji muhimu na watu wengi wanateseka. Ni kwa sababu ya haya kanisa la PCA, idara ya umisheni, kupitia marafiki wa umisheni, wanaomba tuungane pamoja ili tuchange katika gala litakalo wasaidia walioathirika zaidi miongoni mwetu.
Ndugu na dada zangu, zote tumeitwa ili tuje pamoja na tuwe marafiki wa umisheni wa kanisa la PCA, ili zote tuungame na tufanye kitu na zote tukaweza kuchangia ili tuweze kuwasaidia wale ambao wako katika shida na ambao wanataka usaidizi wako na wangu. Na kwa hivyo unaweza changia kupitia kwa paybill number 689549. Ile account ambao utaandika ni jina lako, na kwa hivyo kuja ili tukaweza kusaidiana kama vile Mungu ametuita katika Matendo ya Mitume 28 mstari wa 2, ya kwamba tuje pamoja na tukaweza kuonyesha ukarimu usio na kifani ili tukaweza kumfurahisha na kumpendeza Bwana. Na kwa hivyo ili ukaweza kuchangia kwa njia yako dogo, nami nichangie kwa njia yangu dogo, na tukaweza kuwasaidia wale watu ambao wako na shida, na zote tutabarikiwa.
Many thanks for tuning in to CAC TV, and this is Power Brief. We appreciate your overwhelming responses on our social media platforms. Dr. Abraham Korir Singoe is in the house. He is a man who is telling us as it is. Not that he had, not that he saw, but he experienced it himself. He has put his life on the line fighting for the minorities, for the inclusion of those that have been forgotten in public appointments and in different considerations. And we are looking on this hot debate of the inclusivity in our public appointments in the Republic of Kenya. Daktari, before we broke, we were really looking at where this thing began, where we are, and what we can do. Marginalization has been a very critical matter in this country. And we go back to our counties. This is Trans Nzoia County, where you come from. And your history has shown that in most instances you've had even to sacrifice your own personal ambitions just to see that such a county people are able to keep together. After the elections of 2017, that is the gubernatorial elections, some activists went to court. Actually, they were complaining about the appointments of the current governor, Patrick Haemba. When they got there, The High Court judge then, that was Judge Anthony Charom Rima, referred them back to the governor, saying that if the case proceeds, then it will have to derail the development agenda of the county, and then they said, go back and talk to the governor. And these people were actually disoriented in a way. In your own expert opinion, how do such a matters go? Because now the last resort, people believe that it is the courts which are to interpret the laws, but they were turned back.
When you look at the objectives, of devolution in Article 174 of the Constitution, you would see that devolution was designed to bring services closer to the people. It is also designed to be the space within which greater inclusion of marginalized communities can be facilitated at both the executive, in terms of in terms of the county executive, in terms of the county public service, but also in terms of the county assembly, where there is a percentage dedicated to membership, to nomination of members from marginalized communities as well as women, to ensure that not more than a third of the representatives are from one gender. So the county is the space for addressing marginalization. It is the most critical space for addressing marginalization. However, what is the practice? The practice has been that counties have instead become the space for perpetuating and entrenching marginalization and exclusion. Most of our counties, more than 70% of our counties, are multi-ethnic. Whether you look at Nakuru, whether you look at Laikipia, whether you look at Narok, whether you look even at Kajiado, and all the way down to Western in Trans Nzoia and other places, you will see that most of our counties are multi-ethnic. Unfortunately, what happens in practice is that in terms of appointments, depending on the ethnic community where the governor belongs, the representation of that ethnic community has always been greatest, in a manner that completely contradicts the intentions, of the Constitution. And therefore, and this we can say with respect to various other areas. Even in terms of jobs, forget even about participation or representation at the highest executive level in terms of county executive. In terms of the way the county service boards operate, the way they recruit, the opportunities that are availed to the citizens of that county, you would find that again, the same discrimination in appointment processes are perpetuated, by the county service boards. As a matter of fact, the county government of Kiambu actually came up with a law that was providing or prescribing that 90% of employees in Kiambu County must be from Kiambu, must be of a particular ethnic community. All right? And that is a problem. How does that square with the idea we were trying to propose earlier on, which is we are trying to build one country. We are trying to build a Kenyan nation. How does a law like that foster inclusion? How does it facilitate respect for diversity? And so counties that were constitutionally intended to drive inclusion, to open up opportunities for even the most marginalized, have become instead avenues that facilitate exclusion, discrimination, and non-participation. And that's one of the things that must change, whether via BBI or via practice and via stronger enforcement. We cannot have the judiciary take, a casual view of it. We cannot have a judiciary that basically washes its hands like Pilate and decides that this is not a matter that we can adjudicate over. The courts are specifically mandated by the Constitution to advance rights. And one of the rights is the right to participate, the right of not to be discriminated against, etc., etc. How can the court look aside on the face of a very serious, grave violation of the right not to be discriminated against? So it is very important, again, to ask ourselves, what role have the courts played in terms of ensuring institutional integrity, from the standpoint of ensuring inclusion? To what roles have courts played in terms of holding these commissions or these institutions accountable to the citizens of our country, especially in relation to the inclusion agenda?
Now, Daktari, in conclusion, Kenyans have heard you, they have seen you all over. Remember, our show is live all over the world. We've seen what is bedeviling this country when it comes to inclusion and all these matters. Your parting shot, moving the way forward. Maji ndio yamemwagika au imeteleza, kuteleza si kuanguka. What is the way forward now, in summary?
I think in summary, I would say that Kenya is a great country. We have a great people. We have rich and diverse cultures. We can choose to magnify our differences. We can choose to make a big deal about why we cannot work together. But it has pleased God to put us in one country called Kenya. The 43 of us as communities. It has pleased God to put the 48 million of us or more under this country, under this rubric called Kenya. It behooves all of us, especially the political leadership, to bring our citizens together. It behooves those institutions that have been vested with the mandate of facilitating inclusion at the national level, including the Public Service Commission, and at the county level, the county public service boards. It behooves them to ensure that there is a transparent modality in appointing Kenyans and apportioning them positions in different institutions. Lastly, and more pertinently, institutions that are seized with the mandate of monitoring diversity and promoting diversity. The Cohesion Commission, the Gender and Equality Commission, the Commission on Administrative Justice. All these commissions need to come up with frameworks that will truly ensure that the country moves forward towards a much more cohesive society. And lastly, we have no choice. We must promote our national language. Swahili is our national language. Swahili ni lugha ya taifa. Lazima tuikuze, lazima tuitumie katika institutions zote za taifa letu, so that our country can cohere as a true beacon of peace and democracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sing'oei. It's been a wonderful session, an inspiring moment, informative and educative. You could feel the passion, a man who has dedicated his life in believing that Kenyans, human beings, are one and they can work together. We also appreciate your feedback on our social media platforms and your participation. We thank you and we do not take it for granted. Till next time, for me, Cornelius Omuse, I wish you a good evening and keep on watching CAC TV and tuning in to Power Brief. Thank you.
Coming soon on CAC TV. Are you deaf?
You deserve better.
The payment, yes, I'll send you shortly.